brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys. Suds, suds, suds. It's time for more suds.
Hello and welcome to Sips, Suds, and Smokes. I am one of your hosts today, good old boy Mike, and joining me for this segment today is Reverend Mark.
Good morning, afternoon, what is it?
It's another day at GABF here in Denver, Colorado, and Reverend Mark and I are here to recap another fun-filled day with a lot of activities to share with all of you. It was definitely quite a bit of a palate challenge with this the variety of things we had yesterday, wasn't it?
It was a roller coaster ride.
Well, we started the day off at the media luncheon hosted by craftbeer.com. It was a really great event, and I really appreciate the briefing that they gave everybody. I learned a lot. How about you?
I learned a lot, and I love the narratives of how people got into the business. And of course, I've heard 100 of them, but they're always interesting.
And you got to meet one of your heroes there, right?
Oh yeah, well, yeah. It's about the third time I've been in the presence of the great Charlie Papazian. And
the number of people that we encounter in the brewing industry that trace a lot of their the technique that they use for brewing go right back to a lot of the books that he wrote for the Brewing Association, right?
Absolutely. And, and Charlie he did set the tone for home brewing, his little mantra, don't worry, have a home brew.
Well, it was a really great event, and really enjoyed meeting a lot of great folks at the media luncheon, as well as hearing from a lot of great brewers. So there are a couple of conversations you and I had after I thought were really interesting. We were talking back and forth about what there were several brewers that they featured that talked during the media luncheon, and I mean, they had a lot of things to say. Was there something that really caught your attention that you went, "Wow, I'm so glad that somebody is standing up there and saying that"?
Well, yeah, there was the story. And I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name who began this brewery just by a huge leap of faith. And yet his mother in Arizona had just sort of challenged him and encouraged him to move from California back to Flagstaff, Arizona, to start a brewery. And he and his wife put up their house for sale. And, you could have said it was sort of on a lark. And this, I've heard this repeatedly, and I really do think it has to do. You have to have passion and a vision, and certainly technical knowledge, to really sustain that kind of effort to get things going.
Well, and I think the elements of entrepreneurship were alive and well with what we were hearing in a lot of those brewers that really had shoot the moon, type of mentality about the way that they approached brewing beer. But at the end of the day, I think what was really nice about we heard from legacy brewers as well as, emerging brewers, the passion in all of them was still there, wasn't it?
Very much. And I think part of the reason for that is that their passion is connected still to their local customers. I mean, it is impressive and sometimes even important to have a regional and even a national distribution. But every single person that spoke yesterday, and one of them does have a sizable distribution now, they still have their ear to the ground about what their local consumers are saying. And they're also really good about educating their customers. And
there was a very common, you're right, that was a very common theme to all of them. Their commitment to remaining regional, both to their ingredients as well as their consumers, was very strong and passionate in all of them.
Right. And although, I have far, far less knowledge about the world of wine, there's sort of an analogy about the emphasis. Often you hear about terroir. It's kind of there with beer. It's like we want the local sort of land the region, sort of the elements that inform this style to always be present in this beer.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about what they were saying and what they were not saying, as well, and there were a couple themes. So the one thing that we heard from all of them, or not all of them, but quite a few of them, is that they are all dealing with expanding capacity and production.
Yeah.
And yet they're still remaining, fairly regional in the way that, they want to keep their distribution model. So I think to me that tells me that the craft beer bubble is still expanding, when people are still talking about dealing with capacity and production. So,
and if you consider the fact that, the big three that we won't name, everybody knows who they are, they still control, the line share of the market.
Yeah.
But yet every year, just a little bit more of that percentage is being taken over by all these wonderful artesian beers.
Yeah. Well, the other half of the conversation was what they were not saying, and that was the one thing that caught my attention. Is the thing that they were not saying is that they were moving away from things that have got them where they were today. I was expecting them, they had some questions about where are your breweries going, and I was thinking that they would say, well, we're going to embrace cans, or we're going to embrace sour beers, or we're going to do something, different than that we've never even done. And none of them were saying that. It was really about staying very true to a lot of things that they're already doing.
Yeah. You dance with the person who brought you to the party.
Yep, that's true. Well, from there we ventured over to a really great charity event and some beers that we're going to talk about as well, which was the Pints for Prostrate charity. Really great event. This is a rare beer tasting. I don't know how many beers were in the room. I don't know, maybe about 40, 50 beers, and breweries in the room.
That's about right.
And I think this was a real coming out party for a lot of these brewers. This is where they bring it, man. They really pull stuff out of their own cellars and really almost create some products just for this event. And so we want to talk about a few of these beers and ready to call up a couple of them for you real quick. So I'll get things kicked off because we walked in the room and the first thing we headed to was the Dogfish table. And everybody and their brother said, hey, you got to try that. So this was a different twist. A lot of people know that Dogfish Head is a brewery that makes off-centered ales for off-centered people. That's their slogan. And one of their beers is their go-to IPA, which is they have a series of them, and it starts with 60-minute IPA, 90-minute IPA, and 120-minute IPA. And they brought a 120-minute IPA from 2011. But sure enough, they definitely brought their off-center, concept to it, and they put this on, and then they Randallized it through roasted black garlic and black pepper were the two things in the Randallizer, as well as some Cascade hops. For those of you that don't know what a Randall is, it's basically it is a device between the tap and the keg. And the beer is basically infused through this mechanism, they call it a Randall, that puts these flavor profiles basically in the beer, prior to it being served. So these were some unusual choice of ingredients, definitely to throw in a Randall or even a beer for that matter.
Yeah, and I think because this being a 120-minute IPA, that the garlic and the pepper, which are fairly robust and assertive in their own right, stood up against just the overwhelming presence of hops.
Yeah.
So I think do not try this with just a regular IPA.
Well, and I have to say, of all the 120-minute that I've had, that I'm probably one of the people that it's too hoppy for me, and I don't particularly like that beer, on a regular basis. I definitely like the 90-minute, and it's one of my go-to. Actually, it's a daily drink that I go to quite a bit. The 120, it just pushes my palate right over the edge, and plus sheer availability of trying to find it as well. But I actually found this worked. Actually, I thought it worked better than the base beer, and You're right, it toned down the hops. So my sedge rating actually for that 120-minute with the Randall is a 4. A body should really not make that sound. So what was one of the beers that caught your attention, Reverend Mark?
Oh gosh, there were so many. One that I made some notes on was the Boulevard Brewing Company. Their Triple Julep, and the reason why I'm commenting on this, the Belgian Tripel is one of my go-to kind of beers. I mean, not that I drink it every day. You know, it's a really big Belgian, but
it's a beer you make a lot of.
It's a beer that I make a lot of. I guess I have a real sort of sentimental attachment to the Belgian Tripel simply because it really was literally one of the first beers that I produced when I got into all grain brewing. And the reason for that is that a Belgian Tripel is really a very simple beer to make. The grist is extremely simple. Some grist historically were just 100% Pilsner malt. That's it. What I usually add a little bit of aromatic, sometimes a little bit of wheat, but it's still mostly Pilsner. But as we know, Belgian beers are not constrained by the Reinheitsgebot or the German purity law. So Belgian beers, the parameters on those are extremely wide, and you can add things in as you like. Mm-hmm. So I found that this Triple Julep was interesting because it was infused with mint. Now I have to say that I would give this beer really a 3. But I thought it was a good triple until they put mint in it. But still, I thought it was an interesting experiment.
So you're going to stick with that as your suds rating a 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what a relief for the Boulevard triple. Well, another beer that we headed over to rather quickly that was very close to the Dogfish booth was the Bomb de Balcones from Prairie Artisan Ales out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And this is a brewery. Actually, we're going to have an upcoming brewery takeover show with a lot of beers from Prairie Artisan Ales. But this is the first time I'd had this one. And so this is basically an imperial stout that they have taken barrels from Balcones, who we've had on Sip, Suds, and Smoke several times. Really, really great distillery out of Waco, Texas. And the thing that I like about what they do there is they don't make one type of product, and one of their go-to products is Balcones, the Rumbles, which we've talked about here on the show and rated. It's not quite a rum, it's not quite a whiskey, it's actually a distilled spirit and kind of sits right in between the two, and they actually do make a full-blown rum as well at Balcones. This what really had a flavor profile that I really enjoyed a lot. I think that there was just so much bourbon barrel in the room to have somebody that had used something that was not bourbon, and I thought that it did a much better job of going with the imperial stout than most of the traditional bourbon barrels. It actually softened the tasting elements around it to the point that my first impression would have been, well, it's going to take it way too sweet, and actually it did not. I thought it really complemented the beer quite a bit and actually made it a lot better. So my suds rating for the Bomb de Balcones is a 4 as well. A body should really not make that sound. So I hope that they'll go back and continue to make that, and maybe make that beer more commercially available, because I really think the public would really enjoy that. So what's up next for you, Reverend Mark?
Well, another one that caught my eye and challenged my palate, and I think I have a very sort of mixed review on this, but overall I think it's interesting enough to bring up. Firestone Walker. I mean, these people they're the trailblazers of your Western or Pacific Northwest California, Imperial IPA people. The Pliny is no, that's I'm sorry. I was thinking
you were thinking of Russian River there, yeah. They make Union Jack and Double Jack,
right?
Yeah,
I know that. So anyway, I got off course.
Really?
Here. Yeah. But they had Lil Mikkel, and it was a collaboration Saison. Again, Saison, one of my favorites. Styles that I like to experiment with, and this was a collaboration with McKellar, and it was a Saison that was barrel aged, and then introduced along the way with grapes from the Sauvignon Blanc and Chenin Blanc. And actually, I think this was a very successful experiment. It was like just a 6.7% alcohol, very low bittering to almost none, and it really did come across more as kind of a wine spritzer type saison, spice, a little bit of dryness from probably use some wheat in there. But what I see this as is again a kind of a bridge beer for those who are maybe especially out
like
on the
white
West Coast.
wine,
Exactly,
and are ready to approach a beer that might have some same tasting hints between the two. Yeah,
right.
I agree.
So I would actually give this a 4.
Okay.
Just because of what they've done with this. I thought it was it was a collaboration, and I think this was a really successful outcome.
Well, next up for me, and it was not by planning, but is really good because that was probably your top sour pick in the room, wasn't it? Yeah. And so my top sour pick was actually from Weyerbacher, another great brewery that we've featured on the show, but this is not something that I'd had before. So they brought the Millennium Falco is what this beer was. And there are less than 40 cases of this beer that had been made. It was my favorite sour beer of the evening. And it's basically an American wild ale with hibiscus flowers is, the tasting hints around this. I just really thought that it was one of the best sours, easily in the room for me. And it was very easy for me to go back and actually enjoy, another glass of this, which is one of the highest compliments that I usually give anything at an event like this. So my suds rating for Millennium Falco is a 4. A body should really not make that sound. So anything else from the rare beer tasting?
Well, I'd say of the various barley wines that we tried yesterday, I did like the Drake's Reunion barley wine, but I have to say that the one that that I wished I could have just taken a bottle of, not taken, but maybe
enjoyed
sort of maybe one on a raffle or something to bring home with me.
Or they'll ship a bottle to us soon.
Yeah, was the Lost Abbey 2008 rather Angel Share barley wine. Just thought it's a rare beer, as all these were. Had a really nice dose of spice and caramel on the end. Not overly syrupy or cloying in any way. Yeah, I wish I could take a bottle home with me, but they say
what's
it's
your
not
suds
available.
rating on that one?
I'll give this one a 4.
Yep. And I did as well. That's exactly what I rated it, was a 4. And I wrote it down that I really thought that it had a muted bourbon tasting quality about it, which is one of the difficult things that I always see with using bourbon barrels is how do you keep it from basically overpowering the beer itself. So I'm going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back in just 1 minute. Hey, thanks for letting us take a quick break there. We wanted to come back and talk about a couple of things that we had at the Great American Beer Festival in the afternoon session as well. I had one beer that really caught my attention that I definitely wanted to chat about briefly. So I ran across a beer from a brewery called Riff Raff Brewery out of Pasoga Springs, Colorado. And I enjoyed walking up to the booth, and they only had about 3 or 4 beers from this brewery. And I ended up talking with the brewer. Nice young man, very passionate. And, typically I walk up and say, pour me your best beer. And this young man did not hesitate and said, try my black cherry porter. And my first reaction was, really? You really want to pour something that's flavored for me? But he stuck it right there in my cup, and I have to say, it was just really a fantastic rendition of a porter. This porter has won 2 awards here at the GABF 2 years in a row. I think he held a bronze and a silver in 2 previous years. And it was just a really great porter. The thing that I really loved about it is that the cherries were complementary to the beer as opposed to being forward, in the beer itself. And the brewer said the words that I enjoyed so much. He said, you're one of the few people that recognize, what you're really aiming for here. Do I want to make it a porter with cherry or cherries with porter? And he said, I guess we have the basic philosophy in the way I approach brewing that sometimes less is more. And I almost wanted to reach across and give him a big hug because, it's not knowing necessarily what to put in. It's knowing, what not to put in. So I'm going to give the Black Cherry Porter from Riff Raff Brown, my Suds rating of 4 behind that as well. And frankly, I'd like to rate the brewer as well and give him a 5 because, as well as give him a stand-up and applause because, I really wish that more brewers, really understood exactly what he was saying. That'd be great. Anything else catch you from the show itself in the afternoon?
Yeah, there's a brewery up in Bellingham, Washington, called Boundary Bay. And they've been around a good long while, I'd say at least 15 years. And they had one, a winter warmer that I thought was especially good called Cabin Fever. And it's kind of an amber color. It wasn't quite a barley wine, but a gravity of around mid-70s. And so I didn't take notes as much as my palate just said, we're signing off on this one tonight.
Huh.
So I'll give it a 4.
Wow.
It was a good one to end up with last night.
A body should really not make that sound. Well, I had one quick story to finish up our show for today. So I would certainly say the audience at the GABF is definitely part of the show itself. And I ran across these guys as I was standing there, turned around from one sample table. And, typically, people make either costumes or pretzel necklaces, but this guy definitely caught my attention. I turned around and he had these, it looked like these wrapped, hamburgers on a string, around his neck. And getting food is a very challenging, exercise at the beer festival. The lines are really long. And so I said, so what is that you have on your necklace? Have you seriously put McDonald's hamburgers on your necklace? And he said, no, I haven't done that. He said, these are sausage biscuits from McDonald's, on there. I think it was McDonald's. I don't know. So, I turned around and I said, seriously, you've really put those on a necklace? And he said, yeah. So I snapped his picture and I said, who in the world talked you into this? And he turned around. 2 of his buddies were standing there and they all turned around and I ended up snapping a picture of all of them. And all of them had these sausage, and biscuit, muffins themselves. And so I asked them what they were, how this came about. And he turned to me without even blinking an eye, and he said, well, it all started with a beer, and there you have it. He didn't have to say anything else after that. I thought it was rather funny that these guys really went to a point of innovation. We snapped a few pictures, and then they actually sent me a picture at the end of the day showing them that they had consumed all of these. So definitely check out those pictures on our Facebook site as well. Another really great day at the Great American Beer Festival. We're looking forward to another great day here as well. They'll be announcing the awards for the Pro-Am competition, and we'll finish up with an episode featuring the Pro-Am competitors as well as maybe 1 or 2 of the winners. Would be really great. We'll see if we can make that happen. Hopefully 1 or 2 of the winners are you, Reverend Mark.
Let's go see.
Definitely. Well, for right now, I want to thank Reverend Mark for joining me for this episode once again.
It's always a pleasure.
And we have this episode where?
Wait, wish you were here.
I wish you were here. Yeah, we got to work on your tagline. You always say, after we turn off the mics, it's in the can. Yep. So we're going to work on this one today. So this episode is in the can for sure.
It's in the can.
There you go. We have it. There we go. We'll work on that. This is good old boy Mike. I'm going to ask you to join us once again, but most of all, I'm going to ask you to keep on sipping.